Hello, everybody, and welcome to the EIT Food Accelerator Network Demo Day. We're looking at how tech is transforming the agri-food industry today. We're going to explore and discover how different startups from FAN are using their tech to achieve real impact across the agricultural and food supply chain. So excited to be here. We're going to have different startups and different speakers here today. Which we're excited to announce. I also have a couple of my colleagues here from Naked Innovations, Laurie and Charlotte, who will be hosts today as well, as we get to meet the different speakers and also the different startups from the EIT FAN program. We're going to hear from the likes of Benoit, who is the EIT Food Director of Business Creation. We'll be hearing from Marijn Dols from Daone, Joseph Grindley from the Soil Association. We'll also hear from Stefan Tresch, who is at BASF, Dirk Vasher from FoodShift, and Daniela Talamantes from Bimbo. And after that, the final guest speaker, will be Paul Shapiro from the Better Meat Co. So handing over to my colleague, Laurie.
Hi, everyone. So good to be here. I'm really excited about today's event. Some really great speakers. We also have some startups that will be joining us too today, obviously. This is one of the main reasons why we're here. So we also have on show for you today will be REM Analytics. I'm looking from a different screen. So REM Analytics, we have WiseCrop, ConstellR, Trabotyx, Ekolive, and Plantruption. So they will be kind of speaking to us today through some bit of a Q&A, but also see some really nice videos of their solution and what their startup's all about. Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to hand it over to Charlotte, and she'll be kind of explaining us how this platform works. And I guess a lot of people you don't know about Hopin, the platform we're on right now. So I'm going to share my screen to then be able to share what it's all about.
Great, thanks, Laurie. Yeah, so some of you may have used Hopin before, especially if you joined our previous demo days. But for those of you that are new, I'm just going to give you a quick overview so you know how to best use the platform during the event. So if you're watching us now, that means you're on the main stage, and this is where the majority of the agenda will be. So you can stay on the main stage through the entirety of the event if you wish. I wanted to point out on the right hand side there's a chat section, so if at any point while you're watching us you want to leave a comment or a question, you can do so there. There'll also be a number of polls that we put out, and there's another tab there next to the chat where you can go onto the polls section to give your answer, and I believe there's also a Q&A section there too. You'll notice on the left-hand side of your screen, you've got a few different areas of the platform. So beneath the main stage, you've got a networking area, which you can visit at any time if you wish. And when you're there, you'll get randomly allocated to another person at the event who's also currently in the networking area, and you can speak to them and network. We also have an expo area, and this is where we're going to have some short overview videos of each of the startups that are demoing today. We will also show these videos on the main stage as we interview and speak to each of some people from each of the startups, but they'll also be there if you want to go and have another look. You can head to the expo area at any time and watch those videos. And then also I wanted to mention that there is a reception area as well. And this is where you can find some really important information like the agenda for today. And you'll also find links to all of the speakers and startups LinkedIn profiles. So this is especially good for connecting and networking. If you see any startups that you're interested in connecting with further, or any of our guest speakers, you can find their details there as well. And it's also worth mentioning that you can also reach out directly to any of the attendees today. You can find them in the attendee list and send them a private message as well. So anyway, hope you enjoy the event today, and hopefully that has explained the platform a bit for you.
Thanks, Charlotte. Cool. So now we're going to move on, and we're now going to introduce you to Benoit Buntiks. He's the Director of Business Creation at EIT Food. And we'll be having a little chat. Hi, Ben. How are you doing?
Hello. Hi, Laurie. Nice. Thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here.
No problem at all. Great to have you, really. So just to kick off this session, I guess, it'd be great to just ask you a few questions and, see how you feel this session, what this session is all about. It'd be great just to get your insight into your, what EIT Food's about and how the demo days represent EIT Food. So first question I wanted to ask you was, what do you think makes EIT fans so unique in the current landscape of agri-food?
Yeah, well, EIT Fan is really a pan-European neutral platform of 6 hubs distributed in key countries. And now I'm happy to say that we have expanded it to a 7th hub following the launch of our French hub last week in Paris. And this network, this neutral platform, is really providing acceleration services to high potential, impactful ag and food tech startups, but also corporate venturing services to leading corporates. And it offers this unique combination of 1, a truly pan-European network to accelerate the startups, 2, a direct access to more than 200 partners of the leading European innovation ecosystem, from corporates to policymakers, consumer associations, RTOs, etc. And 3, a clear focus on fostering startup corporate collaborations to solve those big challenges of making our food systems more sustainable and healthier, in line with the EU Green Deal objectives.
Very cool. Very nice. It sounds like a great network. And so obviously why we're here. So if you were to meet someone on the street and say, why should I get involved in FAN? What would you say to someone?
Well, you can be involved in different ways, right? Depends who you are. If you're a startup, first of all, we welcome you to follow us and register on the website at EIT Food. Join our entrepreneurship community. When you are part of this community, you will be kept informed about all the possibilities to join us and invited to apply also to the cohorts of the program, the next cohort of the program. And if you make it through, hopefully you join us, you will start the program and enjoy a lot of different benefits and services. And just to name a few, access to the partners, exposure to key stakeholders from media to policymakers, customers, etc. Access to the market, including matchmaking facilities with corporate partners, facilitation of pilot projects to test and demonstrate your solution in an industrial setting. And also access to funding, right? Because that's also an important element, including the opportunity to receive seed funding from EIT Food and connections with agri-food tech investors, such as our seed fund, Food Sparks, which can invest up to 500K per startup from programs. But if you are an agri-food corporate, I also invite you to join our corporate partners group. We already have an important set of corporates working with us at EIT Fan, such as Danone, Givaudan, PepsiCo, John Deere, just to name a few, because we have many. Cannot name them all. And as a corporate partner, you can benefit from an access to the top-notch startups that have been scouted at pan-European level and selected through a very rigorous process, and also matchmaking and facilitation services to enter fruitful collaborations through pilot projects. We are also welcoming to the community key stakeholders in the food system to join EIT Fan. I'm thinking as an example about opportunities for infrastructure providers to be involved, experts, mentors, but also investors to join the investor community.
So many options. It's really cool. Okay, great. And I guess today the session is really about making an impact. So in the first part, we were talking about tech transforming agri-food, and now today we're talking about more or less holistic impact and really trying to tackle challenges in a more systematic way. So how does FAN and EIT Food maybe more generally help tackle these challenges more holistically, would you say?
Yeah, maybe first I would like to recall that EIT Food's goal is really to create a double impact, right? On the one hand, and these are linked. On the one hand, the economic impact, as we expect in our programs to support those fast-growing companies that can really attract, bigger rounds, that can increase their sales very fast across Europe, that can create jobs, and that will contribute to placing Europe really high on the map of the ag food tech ecosystem at the world level, right? But also, on the other hand, the societal and environmental impact, as all the startups that we support at the EIT Food are contributing directly to, on the one hand, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, but also the EU Green Deal goals, thanks to their transformative solutions. So how do we expect now to achieve this impact? Well, it's a combination, right? It's thanks to our ecosystem that is the leading innovation ecosystem in food in Europe and brings together all the key stakeholders along the supply chain to work together. We really believe that the networking and collaboration effect is key to achieve impact. Second, the facilitation and execution of real pilots to accelerate the market commercialization of those impactful, innovative solutions. And finally, the ability that we have also to carry out those projects through co-funding and financing opportunities. Most of the cases, those risky projects are in need of having this additional funding that can come from EIT to de-risk the project and accelerate their commercialization. So that's basically how we achieve impact at EIT Food.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time, Benoit, and for joining us today. And yeah,
thanks,
really
Laurie.
into how EIT Food is really making an impact. Really, really nice. Thank you for your time, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot. I will join the session, stay with you, and just big thanks to the team to organize this event, and also a big congrats to the cohort 21 of EIT fan companies. Looking forward to stay connected. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye for now. Okay, lovely. So that's the kickoff then, and now we're going to go straight into the meat of everything here of this show. So we have a few startups that are going to be showing off their videos, and before we hit that, we're going to share with you some polls. So as Charlotte was explaining to you beforehand, we have some polls that you should be able to see on your right-hand side that are appearing now, and they should be available for you to answer. So what we want to try to find out right now from you is kind of where are you located. So I'd like to see the variety of locations you're from, the demography of the audience here, whether you're from Europe, you're from Africa, South America, North America, maybe not, because you should be eating turkey today, and Asia, I guess. And then we'd like to know what kind of space that you're focused in right now. So are you working in alternative proteins, sustainable agriculture, healthy nutrition, the variety of different focus areas that are there in the agri-food space today. And then finally, what is your motivation for joining? Is it to network? Is it to discover interesting startups? Is it to learn about FAN, about the EIT Food Accelerator Network? So yeah, please get on those polls and answer those questions for us so that we ourselves can understand your motivations, where you're from. Also, everyone else here that are participating, the attendees that are participating in this demo day. Brilliant. So basically, that is it. So answer those polls and we'll share some of the results later. But for now we're going to show you a video of WiseCrop, and they're going to be kind of demonstrating their technology and how they're trying to make an impact.
Hi there, I'm Thiago Sá. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WiseCrop. Today, WiseCrop is 7 years old. It started as a hardware company providing remote and accurate data to farmers through IoT devices. The team decided to pivot and develop this idea, which today we call what is the agricultural operating system. This integrated solution is a unified and centralized interface to completely manage the farming business. This unique solution offers a set of tools to support farmers by joining the optimization of field operations such as irrigation, nutrition, or pesticides appliances, with improvements of business-related tasks such as field logbooks for certifications, inventory control, or labor and machinery management. WiseCrop truly provides a powerful solution to improve overall company's results, season after season. Our purpose is clear: to leverage the whole agri-food chain, focusing on bringing back the value and recognition that farmers deserve. We want to help produce more food for the overpopulation expected in the near future. Growing crops with less resources, thus ensuring a sustainable future, both environmentally and economically. By reducing the amounts of chemicals applied, such as fertilizers or pesticides, as well as the water used in irrigation by up to 35%, we are ensuring a reduced soil and climate impacts. Farmers can expect an improvement of up to 40%, drastically reducing the time spent on the field operations and therefore increasing their profitability. Today, more than 3,500 farmers use WiseCrop for their daily farm management. In total, they manage more than 70,000 hectares of land, most of them growing high-value crops. The results? From significant savings in production costs to additional earnings from selling at a higher market price and with a higher quality, our customers are really happy. Together with other first-class worldwide entrepreneurs, I was selected to be part of the Forbes 30 Under 30 list under Social Entrepreneurship category. This was a clear validation of the hard work my team and I are doing in building WiseCrop. Reach out to us. We are always happy to discuss collaborations that aim to support farmers and other agri players. If you're a farmer, sign up on our platform. And don't worry, it's free to use. We are more than happy to get to know you and discuss the future of agriculture.
Okay, wow. So, hey, Tiago, great to see your story again and great to see you again. How are you doing? Oh, I don't hear you.
Mute, yes, the typical error. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all, and nice to see you, Ryan. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. And you?
Wonderful, really well, thanks. Yes, so the reason I recognize you is because obviously you're part of this Food Accelerator Network program. So, just talking about that for a moment, what benefits have you seen from being part of the program? We just heard from Benoit telling us from his perspective. Let's hear from a startup perspective. How's it been for you?
It's actually been amazing. So we were part of this Bilbao center on the FAN Accelerator program, and it has been amazing. So the program this year was hybrid, so part virtual, part in person. But well, my personal feeling is that the whole program was almost like a micro MBA, if I can call it, because of all the sessions, all of the knowledge the teachers and the mentors shared with us during the sessions was really very insightful and actionable. So it was very good for me personally as manager of my own startup, but for the whole team I manage, because I always send back the knowledge I get as well. So it is being amazing. The networking is also incredible. We've met incredible people along these days, these weeks. And some of them actually ended up creating a partnership with us. So we are actually improving our own business and theirs, hopefully, by joining forces and working together, because everyone is into this agri landscape. So it is being amazing.
So this is making partnerships with other startups on the program?
Yeah. Yes.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah. And beyond the other startups on the program, have you been able to connect with some of the interesting EIT food partners?
Yes, as well, including our mentors, of course, because we are. There is this matchmaking process in the beginning where the startups match with potential mentors. Okay, and if the matchmaking works, then these mentors go along the startup during the whole accelerator process. And in our case, we met with mentors that are amazing. One of them was a former entrepreneur. Well, it still is an entrepreneur, but got an exit. And it teach me a lot about the process. And the other is a running company in Spain, actually. But it's very clear the synergies that we can create in the future. And we're actually doing that right now. So not only with startup, but with other corporates and companies involved into the program, the networking is being amazing.
It's awesome to hear. So just great in your video there, hearing you're in the Forbes 30 Under 30 in the area of social entrepreneurship. So congratulations for that. So let's maybe hear a bit more about that. What is the impact that you guys are making at WiseCrop?
Well, we're still a very young company and we're still very small. So the impact we're making is not the one we aim to get in the future, of course. But we're actually already creating some very interesting results, numbers, and not only numbers, not only measurable. For instance, on the environmental part of the impact, I mentioned in the video the reduced pesticides and water applied. And this is real. So most of our customers that use our tools to manage their pesticides applications and nutrients applications, they're actually seeing an improvement, so a reduction in the amount of products applied without losing the quality and the quantity produced. So this is being an improvement not only for the environment, but for the soil. It's related, but it's not the same thing. So the reduction in soil impact as well for mainly fertilizers and water used is being very drastic in some cases. We have a few extreme examples of savings up to 50%, and this is real. But the other part, not so easily measured, is we're actually changing lives, because as WiseCrop is so integrative, we call WiseCrop the agricultural operating system. So imagine yourself living without your Android on your phone or iOS. It's the operating system that you take in your pockets for everything, like to reach out to your family, friends, to access to all the information in the world through the internet. So we're doing something similar, but at our own small scale. So we're changing their lives as farming businesses managers. So everything they do, or they typically done until using WiseCrop, is being drastically changed and improved, and therefore is like their only interface during the whole day while they're working. And this is an amazing change in their mindset and change in the way they do their business, in the way they manage their business. They're saving time, they're improving results, they're improving communication between different types of people, the machinery workers, the field operators, the administrative part of the company, the management part. So they're all now talking the same language. And this is being very... it's an honor on my side, and obviously I'm very proud of it, to see this positive change we're making in people's lives.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I love that you're making an impact now at this small scale, as you say, but you clearly have a big vision. So where do you want to go? Where is this happening right now, geographically, and what size, and where is it you're trying to get to?
Okay, geographically speaking, we are born in Portugal, and Portugal is still our main market, our core market. I mean, Portugal is a continent and also islands. But we're also having some customers in Spain for a few time now. We're growing in Spain as a new international country, and we also have some customers through a partnership in Brazil. So this is how we are today geographically. Regarding the types of customers or users that we have, they're mainly farmers, and we started by tackling small and medium farmers. So this is like our core business so far. However, as the company grows, as the features and tools available in the product, in the operating system grow as well, we are getting more and more big farmers, big agri companies, So the goal for the future is not only to serve this starting point of the food value chain, which is the production part, but also to be able to trace down everything in the food chain, such as, everything that we do today in the field, such as conditions and the quality and so on, but then trace that all down through the distribution channel up to the supermarkets and to every one of us, the consumer, so that all this information is transparent along all of this path.
So just to finalize, I guess, from my side, hearing that aspiration and knowing that we have a very diverse audience here, we have people from other startups, from big corporations, investors, funders, people from universities, research centers, etc. as well. What's your message to them? What kind of people are you looking to speak to help you realize that aspiration that you have?
Well, I think that as for now, I'm very foot on the ground, So we need to be able to give the next steps a solid step, not like jumping a huge leap and then fall. So the idea is to look for someone who understands the position we are today and that can take value out of it. So we're typically looking for partners to scale that represent, for instance, associations of farmers or cooperatives of farmers, which represent a larger group of final users, and also different agri companies, such as laboratories for analysis, drones providers, drones imagery providers, agro experts, so the consultants who also work with hand to hand with the farmers on the field. So those kinds of players can help us take the next step. Now, if we want to get a larger step, we may be looking at different providers later in the food chain. So the distributors, the supermarkets, the providers of products, those kinds of companies can also be helpful. I would say not for tomorrow, but maybe for next year or so.
It's really cool for you to hear that not only you're thinking of tomorrow, but in the future. And you mentioned all the way along the supply chain. I think that's so important right in our industry, where sometimes we're quite, I use the word silo, we're very silo mentality. Whereas I think it's important, even from the early stage of the supply chain, to already be thinking about the retailers and even the citizens at the end.
We need to do it.
Well, thank you, Tiago. Really great to see you again, and amazing to hear the progress you're making. And I look forward to catching up and hear from you soon. Everyone in the audience, you can connect with Tiago. You just go on your Hopin platform, find him, send a message. You can see his LinkedIn and catch up. So I think we'll now see the video of the next exciting startup.
Hi, my name is Tim Kreukniet. I'm the founder and CEO of Trabotyx. In January of 2020, after a 10-year career in EV, I decided it was time for something new. I wanted to go back to my entrepreneurial routes and start a new company with a positive impact on the climate. I joined Antler, an early-stage VC program geared at putting founders together to start scalable companies. There I met Mohammed Boussama. He's the CTO of Trabotyx and has a 10-year experience in the aerospace industry, mostly on the embedded systems and software engineering side. But he also comes from a farmer's family, and they already didn't have enough people to work the land. What we decided to do was to interview 100 farmers and really say, okay, what are the problems that you face? And we had these wild ideas about disease detection and all other things. But at one point the farmer said, well, I don't need all this additional information. What I really need is hands, and mostly for weeding. So that was our eureka moment. We figured out that on average an organic farmer pays between 2,000 and 4,000 euros per hectare per year for manual weeding. The worst thing is they cannot find people to do the work. From a bigger perspective, you see the Farm to Fork policy really pushing for reduction in herbicides and a push for organic agriculture. The question is, however, how are we going to do that? And for organic farmers, how are we going to solve the manual weeding problem? So Trabotyx decided to make an autonomous weeding robot. We use computer vision to actually identify individual weeds and take them out. Our robot is able to do the work of 4 people in one day, which represents in the Netherlands a value of 800 euros per day. Ultimately, we want to make automated mechanical weeding cheaper than herbicide spraying. So we really see automation as a driver to get Farm to Fork in practice. The EIT program has helped us to get a clear perspective on policy, market dynamics, and what it takes to go beyond the Netherlands. Right now our team is 8 full-time employees, all engineers but me, and for 2022 we're doing commercial pilots in the Netherlands. From there we want to look at other crops and carrots and other countries with similar market dynamics as the Netherlands. Looking forward to your questions, and I will invite you to come see our product work in practice next season.
Hey, so I believe we have Tim here. I'm not sure if he's joined us.
Yeah, perfect. Not muted.
No muted. No one's muted.
Good.
All good. No technical issues. Fantastic. So how are you doing, Tim? Nice to have you here.
Good. I'm actually I'm actually now at an organic farm where I'm following a course, a transition course on how to be an organic farmer. So learning a lot today.
Ah, fantastic. That's really cool. Okay, so do you have a farm, or is that something you
No. Really, I come from. I'm actually a city boy, and I worked in the EV industry, and then I transitioned to agriculture. And yeah, the more we spend on farms, the more I thought, okay, I really want to get to understand both the problem and the customer and how their season runs. So it's cool. It's in a group of 15 farmers all trying to go from conventional to agricultural organic farming, and one Dutch guy selling robots.
So that's interesting. I mean, we could probably speak all day about that, the challenges they have. What got you into this area, this space? What brought you from EV to farming?
Yeah, good. Well, I like it when you can see a transition necessary in an industry, and then you can how you can use technology to get there. Right? For EVs, it was okay, decarbonizing transportation. But then I looked, okay, well, carbon is only one piece of the pie. If you look at climate change, if you look at biodiversity, water quality, and really other planetary boundaries, that can all farming can have a negative or a positive impact. We said, okay, well, what can I do to make that farming have a positive impact on the climate? And then I met Mohammed, who was already working on a robot for the land, and we said, okay, let's build a weeding robot.
Nice, very cool, very good to hear. So in terms of then organic farming, why specifically organic farming and not the other parts?
Well, ultimately, in 5 years, we hope to be cheaper than herbicide spraying. Also, with the upcoming European policies. But in essence, right, a conventional farmer only spends €400 per hectare per year on herbicides, while an organic farmer spends between 2,000 and 4,000 euros on labor for the manual weeding. I think you saw a quick snippet of that in the video. Hands just taking out weeds. Well, it's a horrible job. Nobody wants to do it, and it costs the farmer more than 20 euros per hour.
Wow. Okay, so that's big cost savings there.
Yep.
And what's the reaction from the farmers to your little robot?
Why didn't you start 5 years ago?
And what's your answer to that?
Yeah. No, actually, quite. I was pitching a pilot to a farmer on Tuesday, and he said, "Yeah, maybe let's just forget about the pilot. Can I have 3?" I said, "Well, let's first do the pilot." But yeah, the demand is high, and you see it not only because of the cost savings, but the labor is just impossible to get, and logically so. I did it for 30 minutes. It's not a fun job.
Yeah, I'd like to have a go one day.
Yeah, please join us.
Okay, we can invite other people if anyone wants to go.
Yeah,
we can try to have like a group trip.
Team building session.
Exactly. Nice one. So in terms of, you obviously there's a lot of demand. What's stopping you from scaling? What do you need now going forward?
Yeah, I think I think we need to have a working product, right? And I think if you look at farmers want 3 things, right? They want with weeding speed, accuracy, robustness, and needs to be cheap. Actually, 4 things. Well, you cannot have all these 4 things at once. So cheap, they said as long as it's cheaper than manual labor, they're fine. But I think working with high accuracy, fast on a very chaotic terrain like a farm is difficult. So it just needs time for development. And actually, right now we're quite confident that next season we will have an MVP. And we decided, okay, let's only do 5 farms, pre-selected, get all the information in, make them happy. And then the year after, let's say, get to 20, maybe 50 robots. My hope is 50, 20 more realistic, and then look abroad.
Nice. Brilliant. So that sounds very, comprehensive, very well thought through. But do you need any help on the way for for this plan?
Yeah. I think this is a nice link to what the EIT program did for us. I think we joined the Munich hub. Because for us in the Netherlands, Germany is the most logical market, very similar market dynamics, but bigger. And I think it helped us well to say, okay, how are we going to enter these other markets? And like in the Netherlands, it's relatively easy to service farmers yourself, small country. But how are you going to do that in Germany? Which partners do you need? And also, let's say, how does the buying process work in Germany? It's very different from the Netherlands, and actually it is. And the EIT program has helped us tremendously, both I think from the mentors we had as well as the other startups in the cohort.
Very cool. Okay, nice, very nice. Well, I think that's all from the question I had. So thank you very much, Tim, for joining us, and good luck with your.
Yeah, I have to go back to class.
Enjoy. I hope you learn a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Cool. So now next up, we have a very interesting discussion, hopefully, on regenerative and circular agri-food. So I believe Ryan, my colleague's going to enter with Marijn, Dols, and just Grindley.
Hello.
Hello, chaps. Good to see you both. Both wearing kind of a bit of farmer attire, I would say. Good to see. I guess you discussed that before the call, right? Just to match.
Always match our clothes.
That's smart. Okay, so I'm going to get out of the way, but basically just to say Marijn Dols is the Global Director of Open Innovation and Circular Economy for Food at Daone. I hope I got that right. And nice one. And Joseph Grindley is a director at the Salt Association. He can probably tell me more what he's a director of. But I'll hand over to you two to have this conversation because you are both the experts on this subject. Let's hear it.
Great to be here with you, Marijn.
Same here. Good to see you.
I feel very lucky to be able to have this conversation with you, a master on all things circular and regenerative agriculture.
No pressure.
Yeah. So why do you think it is? It feels like every single person, there's not a day that goes by where there's not an announcement about kind of regenerative circular things, particularly in the shadow of COP. Why do you think it's taken the world by storm?
Well, I think it's a combination of a few things coming together. I think firstly, through the pandemic, we started to see, and not just see, but feel where the system as we've designed it thus far has been breaking down. In one hand side on the food system, on the other hand side in general in the supply web breaking down. And then we've seen climate change happening. And so I think the world is looking to move beyond just do no harm and aiming for net zero and looking for something that can have a positive impact. And I think that is what both these paradigms, circular economy and regeneration and regenerative agriculture as a part of that have in common. So that's why I think we see this explosion all of a sudden of the terminology. Now let's see if what's behind it is for real, right?
I guess that's the big question, right? Because I'm totally with you. I feel the spirit of the word is so exciting, right? The idea that you can literally regenerate an ecosystem, make the soils healthier than they've been for the last 50 years, bring back biodiversity to a landscape that they've gone. But I guess, my worry is it means so many different things to different people. Does it end up being meaningless? And how do we stop that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have the answer to that, but it is a risk that we will hollow out that term. I think one of the main things that we need to make sure of is that we don't see regeneration as a set of practices. We don't apply, if you will, like a menu approach and say, well, if only you go after no-till, or no inputs or whatever, then you're regenerative. Because I think actually what it comes down to is it's a change in the overarching, what we call paradigm, but basically the goal of the system and the worldview out of which that system comes. We've done for years is we've looked at the system as a whole, our economic system, but including the food system as this giant machine that we were dominating and we could control. And so we looked at it industrially and mechanically and mechanistically. When we think about regeneration actually comes from this reverence for nature, comes from this idea that we are a part of nature and we are farming, if you will, if we focus on farming for a minute, we're farming with nature, we're humble and we're working with nature. We're kind of almost as if we're gardening with nature. And to get there, what you really need is a mindset shift. I had a beautiful example of that, I think it's 2 weeks ago. I was in Umbria at a farm, a regenerative farm. And what this farmer told me said is, I don't farm corn or wheat or soybeans. I farm soil. And the corn and the wheat and the soybeans are kind of my bonus on top of it. But in the end, what I'm really aiming for is to grow soil. And I think that is the key, is like we need to change what we're aiming to achieve. Easier said than done, though.
Easier said than done. But yeah, no, I think you're right. And there's a wiser man than me, who a guy called Ethan Soloviev, who talks about, you know, the pickle of defining regeneration, and that in fact, you know, if we put fixed boundaries around the word, it will die. You know, and it's about, you know, always seeing what more you can do. And being truly, in tune with the landscape in which you find yourself. And I think that's right.
Yeah.
But it feels like that is such a change from everything we've had before. You know, the food system to date has been around, if there's a problem, what's the one product or service that will fix it? If you've got a pest, what's the chemical that will get rid of it? If you've got a low yield, what's the synthetic input that will change that? Do you feel we're capable as a society to make this regenerative shift? Because you can't tinker around the edges with regeneration. It's systems change or nothing.
No, I agree with you. And it's interesting what you said, because I actually had a conversation with Ethan about exactly that last night. Yes, I think we're capable. I think we're capable of trying to understand what you were describing is the essence, without having to bog down the term, because bogging it down in itself is mechanistic and will actually stifle it. I don't even think it's a question whether we will make the shift. I think the question, quite frankly, is will we make the shift fast enough? And what irreversible changes will happen before we actually make that mindset shift? That being said, beyond the renewed interest for regeneration, what I find beautiful is that there's also more and more conversation and a renewed interest for indigenous farming systems and food systems. And the beauty about that is that, to me, those indigenous systems have simply never moved away from that ecocentric, that worldview, that view that we're anchored within nature. We are nature and we're one with nature. And so I see opportunity there. And then on the other hand side, I also see opportunity because there are signals that it starts to make simple business sense. The system that we know has been fueled, quote unquote, by externalizing some of the cost. We see pressure to put more of those costs into the food that we eat, into the food that we grow. And on the other hand side, we've priced out nature. So if you look at the current economic model, nature is basically not valued within it. And it should be. It's our underlying life support system. And so we've seen, for instance, with the launch of Intrinsic Exchange Group at the New York Stock Exchange, 6 weeks, maybe 2 months ago, we've seen that now people are experimenting with ways of capturing and monetizing the positive impact that you can have as a farmer when you transition towards regenerative agriculture. And I think that is the other element that's needed, because we work in a distorted marketplace.
Yeah, I think this is it's something I've been thinking about a lot. So the Soil Association where I work, obviously we're renowned for having created the organic movement 60 odd years ago. And this was a way to get farmers thinking more sustainably, more regeneratively. But what it did was it passed the price premium, the nature piece of that, onto the consumer. And so what did you end up with? You ended up with a two-tier system where the wealthy could afford, healthy, sustainably produced food, and those who are less wealthy not. And things like this extrinsic value exchange that you're talking about, what it does is it enables a farmer to trade not just cabbage, carrots, and milk, but also biodiversity, landscape restoration. And if you can bring the money in that way, not only is this great for Mother Nature, but it starts to democratize healthy, sustainable food as well, which is a double whammy, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's think about it. Basically, a fast food burger should actually be screamingly expensive because it has an impact on our health, which today is externalized but should be included. It has a depletive impact as it's grown today. I'm not saying that it will always be, but as it's grown today on nature, it should be extremely expensive. And a head of broccoli should be very affordable. But I remember the first time I walked in, and it's a few years ago now, but I walked into a US supermarket and I saw the price difference between a gallon of Coca-Cola and a head of broccoli, where basically one head of broccoli was twice the price of a gallon of Coke. And I think that that's where the issue is. And you're totally right. I think the organic movement actually was already very close to what we're aiming for in regenerative agriculture. And now we just need to learn from what has happened to it by A, indeed not passing on the price premium, and B, avoid that we try to capture it and regulate it, as we said before, in a set of practices and rules. Because what that has done is now we have a set of organic farmers that basically, they might not identify as regenerative, but that's what they're doing. They live the vision and the philosophy of it. But you also have these big industrial operations where you're going to the lowest common denominator within the set of rules, but you still have a depletive impact. And that's why that mindset shift, back to where we started, right? That's why that mindset shift is so important, because it's not about the practice, it's about the shift in mindset.
The shift in mindset. And with so many kind of entrepreneurs, businesses, investors on this call, that I think are probably somewhere on a journey from a little bit to completely regenerative in their thinking. But how do you switch that mindset? Because it's tough, right? You have to do a lot of unlearning. And, from the way that investment is structured, from the way that we want business models to run, from the kind of trade relationships we have with, companies that buy farmers' products. This is stitched in. And so, what would be the way to make this mindset shift?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is ask the question, what am I building? What am I growing? With what I'm building, am I adding additional capacity or unlocking the capacity of the system as a whole? Because that ultimately is what regeneration is about. And that means ecologically and socially. And socially means that it makes business sense. So it needs to make good business sense. So I think that is something. Asking those questions is actually the most profound thing. Then the second thing for me, the beauty of regenerative systems compared to the mechanistic, the industrial system as we know it, is that these systems, just like nature, they change through emergence. So there's no central controlling, organizing body that defines how the system changes. And the beauty about emergence is, if you look at the food system, if you look at basically the economy, emergence equals innovation. Yeah. So the great thing is that each and every one of us has the power to innovate. So if you ask the right questions, then just experiment. And yes, it might have different consequences than you ever foreseen, but don't be bogged down by that. Nature experiments all day long, every day, and it doesn't know whether an experiment is going to work in advance. If you ask the right question, then from there on, just go for it, just experiment, and know that actually it's small experiments that change the world. So you have the power to actually have a huge impact.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And another thing that kind of ties to that nicely that I've been wrestling with a lot over the last couple of weeks is the balance between patience and pace when it comes to regeneration. Because, with a regenerative mindset, you're ultimately looking to nature to teach you. And that requires you to almost do the opposite of how we work, which is everything on a deadline, quick. You need to, do what you just did. Go to Umbria, see this stuff in action. And experiments with nature, they take a long time. You change your grazing practices. You might not see soil carbon uptake in the way you want to see it for 5, 10, 20 years. Agroforestry systems pay off with 25 years. There's a lot of patience that is required, but The tricky bit is we also are running out of time. This is the last decade for us to really make any meaningful impact on the kind of keep the temperature at 1.5 degrees. And so balancing these two things, I feel, is the art of the kind of the regenerative entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think we can, to that point, right, we can speed up that rate of change for an individual experiment. And so for that individual experiment, same thing, farmers were telling me, every year I'm learning, every crop cycle I'm learning new things. And that regeneration isn't a fixed point, a dot on the horizon. It's a path. On the other hand side, what we can increase to accelerate the rate of change is we can increase the number of experiments. There's something beautiful in nature, which is like these water fleas, these little fleas that live on the water. You see them skating on the water. There are some other species like them that can actually switch from asexual to sexual reproduction. In other words, they can enhance their adaptive power when the environment changes too much. And so I think that's what we need to do. What we need to do is we need to increase that adaptive power. And that we can do by simply experimenting more. Not accelerate an individual experiment, but experiment everywhere. That, to me, would be the way.
There you have it. Marijn's wise words. Entrepreneurs focus on being able to juggle between being sexual and asexual. And you will fly. I think our time is running up here, so I guess we'll bring Ryan back on because we've got some brilliant more entrepreneurs to come on stage who are living this. So thank you so much, Marijn. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
Yeah. Take care.
Amazing. Thank you both, gentlemen. Great to see you and a really insightful conversation. So appreciate it. And everyone in the audience, the gentlemen are here. If you want to network, if you want to connect with them, the details are in the Hopin platform. If you want to go deeper, they're more than willing to share. And we need more of us in this industry to take this journey. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Cheers. So we're now going to hear from see the video and hear from our next startup, Darina at Ekolive. So let's see the video.
80% of world farmland is exhausted. It do not contain important nutrients anymore and is often contaminated. That's why plants are unhealthy and weak, which leads into increased usage of pesticides, which we then have in our food. We have bacteria, which turns waste or low-quality minerals into high-quality minerals, and biofertilizer EcoFertile to produce more food without chemicals. It contains plant growth promoting bacteria, organic acids, and dissolved nutrients, supporting plants' health and growth without pesticides and even double yield. And the effect is very fast. After a few weeks, you see immediately new leaves, new flowers are created, and plants are green and strong. It's very easy to deliver for any kind of agriculture or plant. Also, our bacteria remove toxic pollution, and it's big business opportunity because there is increasing demand on raw materials, but we have no more resources. For example, 95% of all sand cannot be used, but we could clean it. And same, we could clean different waste and recycle. And we could also replace dangerous mining techniques. Our main focus is to clean minerals or waste by bacteria in the bioleaching process. But we have liquid residue. So what to do with it? We could recycle, but that would mean additional costs. Where we spilled it, grass were exploding, and a lot of agricultural articles were mentioning us. So we realized the value. Our business model have two revenue streams, fees from deposit owners and direct sales to the farmers. And with few euro investment, you can get really very high revenue. And that's all mean for society, healthy and safe food, but also more of the food. For the environment, that means no chemicals in mining and agriculture, that's leading to no contamination and less of CO2 due to usage of local resources and circularity, and high revenue for mines or for waste owners, also double yield and bioproducts with higher value for farmers. In few months, we have our product on organic agriculture input list. We conducted a lot of field tests and found a new team member and launched sales. All thanks to EIT Food.
Okay, amazing to hear from Ekolive and see you, Darina. How are you doing?
Hi, yeah, everything great here.
Great, and it's pretty cool to see that video and what you're doing after hearing from Marijn and Joe talking exactly about this. You're making an impact, right, in terms of regenerative and circular.
We are trying to do so.
Great. So you said there a lot thanks to EIT Food. So how's your fan journey been? What's it brought for you?
Okay, so for us it was really big benefit because, as I mentioned also in the video, nobody of us is expert in the agriculture. And we produce this biofertilizer and biostimulant actually by accident in our bioleaching process of minerals. So we needed this support of EIT Food, let's say, to really bring it to the market, this innovation. And let's say we are really producing it in very large quantities. So it would be pity to not bring it to agriculture. And I think we have with EIT Food support, we were moving so fast. We put it on the input list for organic agriculture. We started sales. Yeah, it was so exciting journey, but also because of all this networking and all this coaching and dedicated workshops in agricultural sidetrack, this all helped us so much.
That's awesome. So you've got a lot of help and you're building this business. So what really are your next steps? Where are you trying to get to? What are your targets?
Actually, our targets are to really to go for, let's say, different crops and go into also different types of agriculture. We would like to go also hydroponics. We would like to go also into vertical farming, but also into classical organic agriculture and to spread, let's say, into different countries in the Europe because let's say with every ore bioleaching operation where we are cleaning minerals, we are producing this biofertilizer. So let's say we try to be international.
Yeah, I hear that. International and across different markets as well. So quite a big ambition, which is great. So what are the challenges that are stopping you from getting that ambition? What do you see any challenges?
Yeah, challenges is actually in let's say in time, because it takes some time till farmer tests the product, he see the benefits, he decide for the larger scale test. So actually it's all little time consuming. But also, let's say sometimes, or let's say we did not went for registration as biopesticide. Even we have this effect, we see that this is more difficult for us to go through. So for now, we are staying with biofertilization and biostimulation because it's more easy. But perhaps in the future, we will go also into this direction.
Okay, cool. So to help you with that, what kind of organizations or support do you think you need to get to overcome that challenge and to get to the next step?
Actually, even now, we are still looking for cooperation with EIT Food partners because universities or research centers can really give us like scientific approval and scientific reports on the different plant studies. And let's say we need something like this because we are testing with a lot of farmers, with a lot of glass houses, but to really have proven evidence from research centers and universities, yeah. So it's very valuable, this EIT Food Network, I have to say, because we are already starting some cooperations with universities and research centers who will support us in such kind of research.
Okay. Just coming back to the market for a moment, what kind of competition, what's your competitive landscape? Do you have direct competitors or is it a resistance to what you're trying to do?
Actually, there is already a lot of companies trying, also going into this direction of biofertilizers and biostimulants. I know a few of them in the Europe. And actually, but they are not so much a big competitor because there is so much of the land to which we can farm and so much farmers that even there is not enough such companies producing biofertilizers. And then prices are really high because, let's say, our competition is also limited by production. So prices are really on high level, and then farmers, they cannot pay for, let's say, expensive biofertilizers and biostimulants. But as we are producing it on really very large scale, we are somehow we are able to serve to a lot of farmers.
Wow. So yeah, there's some challenges on prices on the traditional way. There's a need for what you're doing, and you're ready to do it. So this is awesome. There's an awesome opportunity in front. So just to wrap up, do you have any sort of final message to the audience, whether it's a future fan startup that's watching, or to some of the partners that are here, or to some of the other organizations that are here listening?
Yeah, sure. No, actually, to startups, I have to recommend these EIT food programs. They are really amazing and they will help you really a lot. And to other people who were watching, if you have some opportunity to cooperate, or let's say just you would like to test our product, let us know. We can offer you free samples and you will really see benefits of our product in your own field.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Darina. It's great to see you, and hope to see you again soon. And as I always say, we're here to network. So if you want to know more from Darina, you can go and see more of her video in the space, and you can connect with her here in Hopin or later. So thank you again, Darina. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Great. So I think we're now going to see from our next Impactful Startup, the video from ConstellR. Enjoy.
I'm Chris, founder of ConstellR. ConstellR will provide precise crop health information from space to empower smart farming in a globally scalable way. We believe the key for that is to enable every grower to do smart decisions by knowing what the plants really need and to get everyone on board this journey. Smart farming services already show its advantages to increase yields while saving resources like water. The key for that success is the data, the field information used for the models for accurate recommendations. Smart farming companies must extract the field information needed from several sources like sensors, drones or weather stations to get a good enough picture to derive correct results. However, scalability is costly. That's why satellite imageries are getting more and more dominant to daily monitor 1.5 billion hectares of global cropland. The problem with it is that current satellite systems rely on the color of the leaves to determine crop health, which means it provides information when plants have already started to wither. Using our patent-pending architecture, ConstellR will operate a swarm of microsatellites to robustly detect changes in crop health days to weeks earlier than ever before from space by measuring plants' temperature and transpiration. With our service, we help you to see when crops are in need in time and to be able to intervene before damage occurred. This means our solution from space goes now toe-to-toe with current in-field hardware or other monitoring solutions. It does not require hardware to monitor in the field and is around 30 times cheaper than drones or weather stations. Hereby, we reduce the entry barrier for doing smart farming while keeping running costs affordable also for the developing growth regions of food production, including Sub-Saharan Africa and South America. Behind this ambitious project stays a team with a long heritage in space missions and data experts to bring you space information into actionable insights for the agricultural sector. Together, next year, February, we will go from lab to space to get the first thermal infrared-based crop insights for every single field on the planet. So if you're a company which is working with Earth observation data already, come speak to us. If you're a food producer who wants to get insights in its supply chain or wants to offer their farmer better solutions, come speak to us. Together, we will support the global agricultural transition. Thanks a lot.
Great, fantastic video from ConstellR there, and I believe I should be being joined by Cassie. Nice to see you, Cassie. How are you?
Hi there. Yeah, good. Thanks. Very good. Nice to be here.
Good. I'm glad you could join us. We heard from your colleague, Chris, the co-founder of ConstellR, there on the video. Would you like to, before we start talking, introduce yourself and what you do in the team?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Cassie Welling and I'm the COO at ConstellR. And what that means is basically covering everything that's non-technical. So we've got a big team of data scientists, aerospace engineers, technicians, and some of those sort of non-technical things like hiring, recruiting, marketing, etc., etc. get a little bit forgotten. So hopefully I'm there to sort of fill the gaps in between.
Nice, sounds great. So we can see from the video, I mean, you guys are literally collecting data from space. That's pretty cool. Does this mean that your market is completely global, or are you focusing in on specific areas that you feel would benefit most from this kind of technology?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I guess one of the assets that we have with having satellites in space is that we can provide globally available data. So in other words, our market has the potential to be global, obviously with some caveats in terms of clouds and other things like that. But yes, our market is effectively a global market. In terms of the phasing, because just one satellite in space won't allow you to do a daily revisit. So in other words, having data for one single spot on the planet every single day. So we obviously need to stage our development. So with 4 satellites, we'll be able to do daily monitoring of a single point. And we're starting in terms of the market by looking at Germany and Europe first. But we're not limiting ourselves. So obviously, if we're having discussions with partners that are based elsewhere in key growing regions, like as Chris mentioned, sub-Saharan Africa or the US or even parts of Russia, then we're also keen to speak to them as well.
Wow, yeah, got to keep your options open and start planning ahead. I wanted to ask you, obviously, with any startup, every year a lot is happening when you're growing a business. Have you got any particular highlights or maybe projects or achievements that you've been working on in the past year that you would like to share with us, with the audience?
Yes, so actually today our team, or a couple of members of our team, returned from Houston in the US back to Germany, where we're based, and they were delivering our first system to NASA. Which is really, really exciting because it's effectively a big tick for us in terms of our safety review and our safety abilities to be able to go up to space. So we're actually launching early next year in February to the International Space Station, which is obviously, a big step for us. So only 2 years since founding, we've been able to plan a launch up to space, and we'll be launching in just a couple of months next year. We've also expanded the team, so we've taken on some quite senior hires from industry, both those who've already worked on space missions. I think the team in total has around 20 space missions under its belt, so we're quite proud of that sort of heritage in spite of being a relatively young team. We've also leveraged some grants. We've also leveraged investment from VCs. So yeah, we've made quite a lot of progress in the last year.
Wow, yeah, some really, really great achievements there. And obviously with 2021, you were also part of the EIT Fan Network as well. How have you found being part of the network? And have you got any sort of tips, I suppose, for any startups that may be in the audience and thinking about applying for next year's fan program?
Yeah, I think I echo what everybody else has said so far. It's been a really, really helpful program for us. I think if nothing else, it's been hearing, the real world on the ground, or the real word on the ground. So speaking to farmers, speaking with big agri-tech providers, speaking with policymakers, speaking with those involved in setting up regulations and so on. And that's been a real eye-opener for us. And I think the range of topics that have been covered have been super helpful for us, because I think without that network, you don't get the chance to see that sort of full value chain and understand where you might fit into those different areas and what different areas are relevant to you or not. I think obviously the connections to other peers in the network has been great. So although not every startup is working in exactly the same space as us, excuse the pun, it's obviously very useful to exchange with others who are in a similar phase of growth or have been through a similar phase of growth before and can give you hints and tips and so on. So that's been great. But also the network itself, so the EIT Fan Network, Sorry, am I back again?
Yeah, you're back again now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's been great for having connections to partners. So we've been speaking to PepsiCo, we've been speaking to Bayer Crop Sciences. It's been really helpful. And I think the advice I'd give is give as much as you want to get out of it. Go to every session and really make the most of it. follow up with all of the connections that are offered.
Yeah, you've got to make the most of it. I mean, the FAM program is all about taking this really holistic approach. And like you said, there's quite a lot of diverse topics and workshops and support and connections, not just with partners, but with the other startups as well. So it's great to hear that you've really made the most of this past year of being on the program. So I think that's pretty much all our time up speaking to you, Cassie, but it's been great chatting with you. And for anyone who wants to maybe find out a bit more information about ConstellR, remember, you can connect with Cassie. Her details should be on the reception page, and also you can drop her a direct message as well. So I believe we're now going to move forward, and we have a discussion. Well, I'll hand over to Ryan, and he's got some more guest speakers that will be joining us.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, and thank you, Cassie, as well, and Chris from ConstellR. Really impressive stuff, preparing us for, if we don't save this planet that we need to, then we've got hope when we all live on Mars, which is good to know. So, yeah, I would love to bring on stage with me now, if everyone's here, Stefan, who is the head of Ag Innovation and New Business at BASF. Hi, Stefan. I think, can you hear us, Stefan? Hello? Hi, Stefan. Okay, hopefully Stefan will work that out in a moment. We also have Dirk Vasher, who's the Innovation Manager at FoodShift. Dirk is here.
Camera still doesn't do it, so I'm only there with a microphone right now.
Okay, Dirk, that's a shame. It's always good to see you.
It's a pity.
Yeah, and maybe third time lucky, we have Daniela Talamantes, who's the Director of Innovation Scouting at Bimbo. Oh, look at that. Let me hear you. Wow.
One out of three.
Exactly. Right. Good to see you, Daniela. We'll try and bring Stefan back if the technical thing works, and we'll keep trying to get Dirk's smiley face when we can. But good to have you guys here. Really wanted to explore, as we've heard from some great startups, we know we've got some big challenges and we have lots of potential with circularity and regenerative, as we heard from Marijn and Joe earlier. So we're thinking about this holistic, systematic approach to tackling agri-food challenges, right? Which is what these startups are trying to do. But they're very specific on the part of the food sector they're in. So just taking a move out for Dirk and Daniela, in terms of looking at the supply chain of agriculture and food, what are you guys seeing as the big challenges right now? Where are you focusing your attentions? Maybe we can start with you, Daniela.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ryan, to invite me to be part of this session. Well, let me begin by saying that Grupo Bimbo, it's a Mexican company, okay, that has presence all around the world. So by saying that, I need to move a little bit aside and to not to focus on the European section. Okay, I'm gonna be talking about the LATAM part because I think it's the one that I know the most. And from that side of the world and how we are seeing the big challenges in terms with agri-food is how to connect the technology to the producer and that technology to the big corporates like us. Most of the times, the producers, specifically in LATAM and in America, they do not see the necessity of using any type of technology. Okay, and that creates a little bit of not necessarily not the easiest communication between the corporate and the producer. Most of the time, they think that we are the ones that we are going to try to control them. So I think that from our side and from the LATAM side, that's one of the big challenges that we see.
No, absolutely. And there's an interesting sort of journey that we're on here because we're all developing at different speeds and innovation is going at different speeds, of course. I mean, you're now, as I understand, Daniela, based in Israel, right? So you're really at the epicenter of the latest technologies as well, and all the excitement and buzz in that space. Just to see if we can hear from Stefan right now. Do we hear Stefan? No, maybe not. Okay, so Daniela, just moving forward, when we talk about a systematic approach or holistic approach, do you see any examples of that in your role with Bimbo Ventures? Any good examples that you have?
Yes, of course. We have been trying to whatever we see here in Israel, and yes, just a big background. I am leading right now the efforts of scouting of Grupo Bimbo here in Israel because of the big innovation ecosystem that it is, and everything that it's been developed in terms of agtech and food tech. I normally what I do is that we pass it on straight to the global corporate department in Mexico, and we have done a couple of tries with agtech companies, so we can do pilots or POCs, specifically in Mexico. There's a learning behind that, but I'll go to that in a minute. So whenever we try to do that, okay, I think that the connection is just a very complicated triangle that we up until now cannot seem to decipher. Okay, so from one end we have the startup, on the other side we have the producers or the farmers, and the other side we have the corporate. Okay, and that triangle, that it should be close so we can have a perfect communication between each of the parts, and sometimes that gets lost in the middle. Okay, why? Because again, either the producers do not see the benefits or the aggregated value to add technology to whatever they are doing. From the other side, the startup is eager to produce, to show what their technology can do, and from the other side, and the third wheel, so to speak, is the corporate. And the corporate, even though we can actually do things that can be better for both of the other parties, on the inside of the company, it's a little bit more slow because we are a very big company. So processes and authorizations and all of that takes a little bit of time, right? So that's very complicated. But I think that the systematic approach should be to have specific people that are dealing with in the middle of that triangle, so everybody can have and can understand and communicate with their needs with that specific person, and that specific person can deploy into each of the three parts. I'm not sure I'm actually making sense. I hope I am.
No, I like
right?
it. I like that kind of vision, the triangle. No, I think definitely a lot of the people in the audience here will relate to that triangle, and we have this audience is representing in all angles of that triangle, or maybe even just a square. So if we jump into maybe a specific example you guys have at Bimbo. So I know you're trying to work a lot now with healthy nutrition, trying to get more clean energy in deliveries and so on. So do you have an example where you're trying to tackle a challenge that you see there's different moments in the supply chain that have to be touched to make this a success?
Yes, I think this happened a lot with technologies that have to do mainly with R&D, okay? Because the R&D department, at least in Grupo Bimbo, it's very in touch of what is happening on the raw material side, where all the raw material is produced, and sometimes they get very in touch with the producers and where do they come from. Okay, and also they work very closely, specifically with manufacturing and with the marketing department, to make sure that whatever it's being cooked in the R&D with a new raw material or with a new product, everything flows as it should, right? So I think that's another very good triangle of people, that have to interact with different parts of the supply chain, so everything can flow correctly. And the good thing that we have specifically is that the global R&D department of Grupo Bimbo has already understood very well how to work with new technologies, how to work with the producers, and how to communicate with the inside of the company. Okay, so they have already a clear path and clear processes on how to do these things. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than we wanted to, but because of the technology has to travel long ways, from either United States, from different innovations ecosystems to where the R&D labs are. But aside from that, as soon as they understand the technology and understand who are the key persons that are touching that technology to pass it on and to either have a more healthy product and that all the supply chain flows correctly, are the R&D team together with us, together with Bimbo Ventures.
Yeah. So moving that on then. So for example, here in the Food Accelerator Network of EIT Food, we have 60 startups this year. There'll be 70 next year. Typically at technology readiness level 5 when they join. And we see piloting happening and everyone wants them to scale. And what are the possible challenges and also the things that you think work well to enable that scaling? Because we get lots of excitement and it's like, okay, now we're ready to go to the next level. So how do we encourage that excitement continues and actually see them start to scale? In your role, what do you normally see happening in that stage?
That's a very common challenge. And that is something that it's complicated to answer. I don't think there is one answer to that, because each technology, each startup, each team is completely different. Okay, and you need to analyze each problem one at a time to really understand how you can tackle that and how us as a global corporation can help them to scale up. Sometimes it's something that sometimes the startups just need that the corporate just be more agile and more fast to do things so they can scale up quickly. Sometimes it is on our side, but mostly it's on their side. Okay, because they're testing this. They are still testing. They have tested in specific markets, but if we want to move them into another market, then it's start all over again. So it depends. I don't think that there is a right answer to for help them to scale up, but I am sure that this is something that we need to solve. But it depends on of each and of the technology and the startup itself.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, each individual situation is definitely different. One of the things we see a lot here in the Food Accelerator Network is right across the supply chain. We've got startups that are very much in agricultural inputs to food processing to actually helping with the last mile as well. So all along the supply chain. In your role and with what Bimbo is doing, do you see the opportunity to somehow connect different startups or somehow better leverage them or have them collaborate with one another? Is this something you've done?
This is something that we have not done up until now, but every day I see more that need. Okay, specifically here in this innovation ecosystem that it's Israel. Okay, there are plenty of technologies that complement others. Okay, and us, Grupo Bimbo, we have not found right now that how to merge those two technologies to get them flow, to make a nice flow of technologies, right? I think that right now I am starting to do so with one specific pilot. Has nothing to do with food tech and agri-tech. It has to do with cybersecurity, but that specific technology that with regards on cyber, I think it's more open to do so, to integrate different technologies to one another. In terms of food tech and ag tech, I still have not found the opportunity to do so, but we need to.
So, and that's talking about your startups, but in this open innovation world, you're in an amazing ecosystem there in Israel. We have an amazing ecosystem across Europe, in fact, and we're through EIT Food and others, we're starting to get more connected. So we're all looking at the startups often as the heroes. Do you see the opportunities between corporates, between the bigger companies to actually work together with some of the startups? Have you seen any of that?
Yes, of course. Specifically, the big corporations that we are focusing on food, all of us are looking for the same thing. All of us are really right now focused on being a more highly responsible in terms of sustainability and clean energy. All of us, right? And also we understand that we have a high responsibility to help the producers and to understand AgTech a little bit more, okay? And I can honestly say that most of us are working with the same startups, okay? And I don't think that it's an issue at all. On the contrary, I think that's helping them and helping the technology to grow and to scale up, okay? It wouldn't be a good decision not to do so, okay? Because in the end, we are on the same boat, okay? Trying to go to the same direction and to create a better and more sustainable supply chain of food.
No, for sure. And it's really interesting, the journey that I've seen. I mean, I've been in this industry myself 15 years, 10 of those years at Cargill in innovation marketing, and the last 5 or 6 as an entrepreneur myself. And I think we've gone from something where we were, there's still competition there, of course. You still got to protect some of your IP, but it's way more open now in this ecosystem in Europe than it used to be. And I think one of the keys behind that is, and something that I think Dirk would have talked about if he's still able to join us, is us as citizens. So for so long, we've all been consumers of the food industry, but we're now taking more power as citizens, a more democratic approach. And I feel like one of the things that I learned from Dirk about these kind of 3 levels of citizenship. So we as individuals, and making our decisions on how we're going to get involved in the food system, what we're going to purchase, but also how we can be active, how we can make a change, the level of the community you live in, and what do you want to take action there, and what you're interested in. But also, and most of the people in the audience here are in the agri-food system in different organizations. And I think, especially at the corporations now, when we speak to people like you, Daniela, yes, you have the Bimbo hat on, the Bimbo Ventures hat on, but you also have the Daniela hat as a citizen of this planet, right? A citizen of Israel that sees what's happening in this industry, and you actually have the power in your role to make a change. And if that means working with competitors, it seems like we're more willing to do that than ever, which I find really exciting.
Yes, we need to be more open. Okay, not only as you say, as citizens, as consumers. Okay, we also have the responsibility to demand to the big corporation to make the necessary changes to help to change the world. Okay, and yes, we are so many in the world right now. It's just very complicated how things are how we let the things go so far, and right now it's very complicated to turn back, okay? But I think that if we all make a conscience of how do we eat and source our food, and we demand that as consumers to the very big corporations that have the power to do so, then I think we might be able to make a change for our future children or our future grandchildren in the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And us now as well, right? Seeing what happened in Glasgow at the COP26 and maybe lack of action, definitely lack of agri-food on the agenda, which was disappointing to see. One thing you've mentioned, just to, I think, wrap up this conversation, one thing is you talked a bit about producers before in that triangle. So bringing it back there, as a corporate, typically you're working with the startup to try and influence, but do you work also directly with the producers, and what can you do better to influence those producers to start adopting some of these technologies?
Yes. Okay. So again, I'm gonna turn into America. Okay, because I think it is the ecosystem in which Grupo Bimbo knows the best, and mostly we work more closely with the farmers and with the producers in America than in Europe. Okay, I think that what Grupo Bimbo is trying to do is to help to bring the technology to the producers, to get to know them, to get to understand the technology first, and to make them aware of how technology can help them to be more productive, more efficient, and to have a better yield, not only in what they produce, but also in terms of economics. I can honestly say that that a high percentage of those producers, they do not understand the value of having the technology behind them. And also because it's LATAM, normally that type of technology, it costs them a lot of money, right? So you really need to be empathetic on what do they exactly need, and how that technology is going to help them. So the decision of what to showcase or not to showcase to those producers, it mostly has been a responsibility that Grupo Bimbo has. Okay, and trying to identify exactly what each and every one of them needs. It's a hard task. It has not been easy. But again, I think that in Europe, everything is completely different. There is a lot of support with the government and a lot of support with the EIT Food Consortium, and the community there is very supportive of that. And it's very focused on trying to help them, because in the end, they are the ones who are producing the food that we eat, right? However, in America, it's a little bit different, and there's not a lot of support. There's not a lot of programs. There's not a lot of funding for them. So the way they think, it's completely different.
Right. Absolutely. It is. There's still so much regionality in how we do things. So just to say, I think we're not going to be able to bring Stefan or Dirk back in, unfortunately. It's a shame, because I know at BASF, what they're doing there regarding circularity especially is very cool, engaging all the different elements along the supply chain and different actors. So for the audience, if you're able to see Stefan on there, you can definitely reach out to him and learn more. And with Dirk, I think had a great story to tell around citizenship engagement, doing some great work at FoodShift. Again, Dirk is on the platform there, so you can find the details and reach out to him too. Daniela, I want to say if there's any final remarks or message you want to share.
No, I think it was a shame that we couldn't have Dirk and Stefan here with us. I think that the conversation between the three would have been a little bit more enriching for all the startups and for all the people who are actually taking the time to listen to us. But I hope that if anyone would like to have a talk, I'm open to it. So thank you very much again, Ryan. I think that whatever you're doing, it's awesome for the European community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes all of us to make the change.
Correct.
Appreciate it, Daniela.
Correct.
Cool. So I think we're going to open up a poll now as we transition, getting ready for the next impactful startup. So just before we see the video of REM Analytics, there will be a poll. So you go to the right side of the main stage and you can see it there, I believe. The question being, what is preventing us right now from making a real impact to transform the agri-food system? So, we've heard that this transformation is needed. We know we've been talking about this for a long time. What's preventing us? What's stopping us? There's some options there. Is it your self-interest, or do you think it's lack of investment, political will, or something else? So feel free to answer that. Be great to get your inputs. And I think we'll now hear from REM Analytics, the advanced testing for genetic composition. So let's see their video.
At REM Analytics, we make genetic testing easy. A good genetic test can help solve a very large number of problems you might be having in your company right now. The first example is crop authentication. If you are bringing together crops from several sources, you need to know exactly what are in the batches you are buying. This is important in order to improve your purchase and pay the right price for everything you buy. But it is also critical in optimizing your downstream process where different varieties have different properties, and if you have blends, you need to know it. By using our test, you can know exactly what are the varieties of a given crop in every batch you buy and how much there is of each. You can also use genetic testing to monitor complex fermentation. Complex fermentation is when you have more than one microorganism growing together. And for that, the dynamic is key. Current technologies today are expensive or imprecise, and we come to solve that by enabling you to monitor in real time the dynamic of the different bacteria or fungi in your fermentation process, whether it's naturally occurring, such as cacao or kefir, or whether it is a designed consortium. Last but not least, you can use genetic testing to accurately profile microbiomes, whether in human milk or in baby gut or in any other niche of the human body, where knowing not only what are the species present, but how much there is of each is going to be key in discriminating your population and knowing who is responding and who is not going to respond to a given treatment. All of this is possible thanks to advanced testing for genetic composition. This is the technology we have developed at REM Analytics, which allows us to do targeted, precise, quantitative, fast, and cost-effective genetic testing.
From the moment we receive the sample, it takes 2 hours to proceed the analysis.
To guarantee simple management, we have built our clinical data management app for Android and iOS.
At the EIT FAN, we're looking for partners who know what they want to test so that we can co-develop assays or adapt our currently existing assay to fit their needs. We can then analyze samples for them in our current lab, or if the volume grows, help them install ATGC directly in their labs for testing.
Another great startup there from EIT Fan cohort this year, and hopefully we should be joined by Paolo on the main stage for some questions. Hi Paolo, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Last time we saw each other, we were both in Malaga for the EIT Food Venture Summit, so good to see you again.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you.
No problem. So, I mean, great video there showcasing everything that you do at REM Analytics. It definitely looks like you've got quite a few different uses for the technology or ways that the technology can be used. So I wanted to know, who is your ideal customer, or who do you think could benefit most from the services that you provide at REM Analytics?
So I believe the main beneficiaries from our tests are companies that are looking to add science to the food that they're currently producing. And we see almost across the corporates, there is a drive to create more evidence-based health nutrition. And I think everyone who is serious about it would benefit from our tests because they allow you to build high quality, cost-effective evidence behind your claims.
Wow, amazing. So I presume you've already started reaching out to these kind of customers. I suppose I wanted to know a little bit what you have planned in the coming year, maybe some of the projects or goals that you have in place for the business.
So our current largest project is measuring human milk microbiome and its relationship with newborns' health. So we've designed a specific assay for human milk microbiome that links into human baby gut microbiome. So these, again, they're not general microbiome assays that tell you generalities. They are really focused on the key species and strains related to human milk health and baby health. And we're currently conducting a very large clinical study with the Hospital de la Fe in Valencia. And we hope to complete this data analysis during next year. Our second largest project now is on vaginal microbiome and fertility. So designing a custom vaginal microbiome assay that will enable our customer to provide diagnostics for women who are having trouble becoming pregnant.
Wow. Yeah, so we can see you're even working outside of agri-food in that sense as well. So the technology is really broad. So specifically thinking about agri-food then,
Yes.
what sort of kind of clients are you currently working with or you've worked with in the past that have maybe used some of your services?
So we have worked with a major food company, so active in the food transformation industry, to develop authentication solutions. So we have been able to develop a basmati rice assay, and we are now looking for other opportunities in other crops that are closer to Europe, most notably olive oil, possibly Italian or Spanish rice, but also coffee and cacao. Wow. Which, although not grown in Europe, the Europeans are leaders in its purchasing and transformation.
Right. Okay. So are you maybe hoping to connect with some people in these kind of areas? Is that what you're looking for? Or, I mean, we have quite a diverse audience watching today and they can reach out to you directly. What kind of people would you like to connect with today?
So we are looking to connect with quality control managers in the commodity trading industry, or in general with commodity traders who believe they can benefit from having more information on the batches that they're purchasing. And the rationale is the better you know what you're buying, the better you can price it and the better you can transform it. And that's why we're looking to reach out to traders and transformers of commodities.
Right. Okay. So if there's anyone in the audience who are working in that field, they should definitely reach out to you then and find out some more about REM Analytics. And I mean, quickly before we finish, you've also been part of the FAN program this past year.
Yes.
I was wondering if you had anything you wanted to mention about how you felt being part of the program, what you found beneficial of it. Yeah, it'd be good to hear a little bit about your experience with the FAN network.
Honestly, it's been a great experience. So I've been mostly interacting with the Switzerland hub, which is linked to Mass Challenge. And they've done a wonderful job in inviting me to almost all of their demo days and connecting me with all the major corporations who indeed do transform cacao or coffee, as well as other companies active in the nutrition sector.
Wow.
So yes.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to hear that you've benefited from being in the program, and it was really great to hear a little bit more about everything you do. And as I said before, anyone who's watching who maybe thinks that this could be interesting for them, go on to the main section on Hopin, and you can find Paolo's details there to connect with him on LinkedIn, and also you can reach out to him directly and send him a private message as well. So yeah, anyway, well, thank you so much, Paolo. It's been great speaking to you.
Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
No problem at all. I think now we're going to move on and see another one of our startups. This time we're going to be watching a video from Plantruption. So yeah, let's see the video.
My name is Jennifer, and our company is called Plantruption. Our mission is to disrupt how food is produced to benefit oceans, terrestrial ecosystems, and future generations. Right now, 60% of fish stocks around the world are at capacity, and 30% have been completely depleted. With the world's population expecting to grow to 10 billion, we need a solution to feed the world sustainably. What if I said that we could develop products but without having to compromise on health, nutrition, taste, and that's plant-based seafood. Our company is using world-leading technology in combination with the most sustainable ingredients in the world, seaweed and microalgae, to develop our products. Right now we have 2 products on the market, the Irish seaweed burger and fish goujons. We're selling these in Ireland's leading retail store, SuperValue. We're sourcing the ingredients locally using seaweed and microalgae with compostable packaging that breaks down in the ocean within 12 weeks. Our longer term project, plant-based cod, we're working with world-leading collaboration partners to help develop and fill that white fish gap that's in the market, and not compromising on taste, but using sustainable ingredients while still giving the consumer a taste of the ocean, which we all love and we all long for. The EIT program has been fundamental to giving me advice, mentorship, and aligning us with amazing world-class collaboration partners. And the other cohorts has helped and secure and enabled us to feel confident in our journey and help Plantruption to secure a seed round earlier this year. Thank you for all involved.
Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that video. I believe we should have Jennifer O'Brien from Plantruption. Great. Hi Jennifer, how are you doing?
Hi, how's it going? How are you?
Great
to see you.
By the way, happy Thanksgiving.
Good.
how's it going? I believe Jennifer's actually in the States, by the way, everyone. So she's enjoying the festivities over there, I believe.
Yes, it's Thanksgiving today, so I'm going to pretend I'm American and join in and try and celebrate. So yeah, looking forward to sharing the holiday with the guys today. Really excited.
Very nice, very cool. So lovely video. So in terms of where you're right now, your journey to now being in Plantruption, where did that come from? Where did you get involved? How did you get involved in kind of trying to change how we eat seafood?
Yeah, I mean, really, the story started long ago. I suffered myself from chronic asthma for years, and I was always looking for solutions to manage my symptoms. And I started using seaweed in my diet when I was a kind of early teenager and experienced extraordinary relief from that. So I've always had an interest in, the composition and how this is such an amazing crop. And, when I was in college, I was doing an MBA program, and we had to start a company as part of our thesis. And I wanted to do something around seaweed and looking at the plant-based movement, what was going on. I felt combining seaweed and the plant-based movement and looking at, in the oceans right now and ecosystem, that we could somehow collaborate the two. So that's really how Plantruption was born then, really from my passion and my previous health concerns to wanting to save the planet. So yeah, it's been a really exciting journey.
Very cool. I'm not aware of that, and I've had asthma all my life, so maybe I should check that out. Actually, very nice, very cool. It's interesting to find out the studies and stuff behind that. So I'm going to investigate that later.
Absolutely.
Very cool. So in terms of right now, what do you see your main challenges are? Obviously, you're based in the States now, trying to kind of learn some tricks of trade there from kind of the Silicon Valley area. What's your kind of next step? What's your kind of roadmap going forward in the next year or so?
Right now we're currently producing in Ireland, and we've just partnered with a co-packer in Ireland locally. So we're supplying one of Ireland's largest supermarkets, and growing that obviously comes with challenges around distribution and manufacturing. So we're working together with our partners in Ireland to use Ireland as a test market to, potentially make all the mistakes what we can before we launch into the States, before we launch into some of the European countries that we're earmarking to do that. So yeah, there's loads of challenges in that space. And also around our R&D, we're working with world-leading collaboration partnerships, trying to find the right solution, the most sustainable solutions. We're looking at world-leading emerging technology that we can potentially use, the most sustainable ingredients. So we're researching all of those elements right now with our research partners and with our mentors in the States here to try and get that best products and improve our existing products and to be kind of world leaders in the market. So all of what's going on is hugely challenging. But I think that's the fun of a startup is, trying to solving those problems as quickly as possible and moving on to the next thing. And so hopefully our biggest project that we've ongoing now is developing a plant-based cod, and we've already done some trials on that using technology and ingredients, and we're doing more trials hopefully in February this year as well. That's our next set of trials, and we're hoping to roll that product out early next year. So that's been hugely exciting for us. I think that's going to be probably our next biggest challenge.
What feedback have you got from, because I guess obviously consumers have been buying your products. How have they been comparing it to actual seafood products, or what's the kind of feedback you've got so far from people?
Yeah, I think we're one of quite unusual products on the market on the shelves in Ireland because there was nothing else like it. I mean, we don't actually have any real competitors right now in the Irish market space in terms of plant-based seafood. While there is obviously a number of other, plant-based foods there in the market, they weren't going for that seaweed, that taste of the ocean experience. So we're kind of unique on that. So there was a bit of a learning curve for the consumer there, trying to show them what it is, educate them. We're pushing hard on social media now, and we were doing some in-store testings, but obviously COVID has halted that and been so it's been difficult to try and get to the consumer. But I think people are really excited about the product. They see something new and they're keen to try it. So as time goes on, I think more and more, once we start reaching more and more customers, I think it will even help grow even further and give customers the confidence to take it off the shelf.
Sure. What do you see the challenges for? Because obviously now there's like the aim of getting to 10% protein of alternative protein to meat.
Yeah.
What do you see the diet of consumers of the future? I'd say in 10 years, how do you see it in terms of what we'll be eating?
Yeah, great question. I've talked a lot recently to people, especially in the States here, going, where do you see meat in the diet in 10 years' time? And I think none of us thought the plant-based revolution was going to come as quick and fast as it did. So that was a surprise to everyone. And hearing on the ground, I do think, obviously cellular meat is coming, and there's plant-based meat. I think they're going to take over the market, and I think domestic farming as it stands will probably take a slight back burner as well. So I think the combination between the three is going to be huge over I'm plant-based and cellular agriculture kind of winning in that space, but maybe I'm a bit biased, but certainly that's what I'm hearing, especially in the Bay Area here. There's a huge push on alternative proteins, and we know that we can't, the world is not sustainable, the land that we're using, that we need another solution, and people are very aware of that. But getting those alternative proteins out there and the technology, that's going to be a challenge, and that's the current challenge and the time frame around that. So loads of work to do, but yeah, it will come quicker than we think.
Yeah, sure. So just to, I guess, end here, any messages to the audience, like any call to action or something that what kind of help you need, anything of that sort?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, working with the EIT program has been fantastic. I've been connected to, amazing mentors and corporates one corporate in particular has really accelerated our journey. And sometimes you don't know that you need these connections until you actually talk to the people and have those conversations. We're always looking for help in our journey. We've got loads of ambition, drive, and any support from any corporates, collaboration partners, investors. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jennifer. And
thanks so much.
Plant-based turkey, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Bye. Fantastic. Okay, so we're actually trying to get Dirk and Stefan back into the room because we've been having some difficulties with the technology, as is sometimes the case with these platforms. But in the meantime, I think what we'll try to do, we have a message from Paul Shapiro all the way back from the States, a message about moving to alternative protein sources. So we're going to put that on. He's currently in the States enjoying his turkey, I guess, alternative turkey as well. And hopefully this should be an interesting message for everyone.
Hello, friends. This is Paul Shapiro, the CEO of The Better Meat Co. and the author of the book Clean Meat, How Growing Meat Without Animals Will Revolutionize Dinner and the World. And it is a pleasure to be talking with each and every one of you. I only regret that we can't be in person. But one of the reasons that we can't be in person is exactly the purpose of this talk here today. You see, it is no longer any secret that the planet is just not getting any bigger. Humanity's footprint on the planet is getting much bigger, but the planet itself is not getting bigger. And a primary way that we leave that footprint is through our food print, principally in the amount of meat that we eat. It just takes a lot of resources, a lot of land, a lot of water, a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and more to raise and slaughter the billions and billions and billions of animals who we are slaughtering for food every single year in this country and around the world, the country that I'm in the United States, and tens of billions more around the world. And when you compare that to what it would be like if we ate fewer animals and more plants, you just need a lot more resources to do it. And the United Nations points out that today we have 7.8 billion of us walking around on the planet. But by the year 2050, we are likely to have probably closer to 10 billion of us. We're going to be adding about 2 billion more people in the next 10 years, presuming no catastrophe fells our numbers. So with those 2 billion people wanting to eat meat, and with the current people we have here living today wanting to eat more meat than we do today, especially in countries like China and Brazil and India, where you see a lot of population growth and people thankfully are escaping the middle class. But one of the first things that they do when they escape the middle class is begin eating more meat. And we want people escaping poverty, of course, but we need to find ways to produce meat that don't involve necessarily raising and slaughtering all of these animals. In the same way that we want to find ways to continue providing energy and power for our civilization without the need for fossil fuels, we also need to find ways to produce the meat experience that so many humans seem to crave without the need to raise animals. Now, I mentioned the reason that we can't all be in person, of course, is because primarily of the pandemic. And one of the things the United Nations has pointed out is that pandemics don't just arise out of nowhere. They have a cause. And it is clear how we can increase pandemic risk. It is clear how we can amplify pandemic risk by raising animals for food. This isn't just me saying this. This is the United Nations in their recent report, Preventing the Next Pandemic. The UN points out in Preventing the Next Pandemic, its own report, the number 1 through 3 reasons that we might have another pandemic. The number 1 through 3 causes of the next pandemic, according to the UN. Number 1, increased demand for animal protein. Number 2, intensification of agriculture, meaning confining more and more animals in smaller and smaller spaces. And number 3, the bushmeat trade, or killing wildlife for their meat. In other words, the numbers 1, 2, and 3 reasons the UN predicts we will have another pandemic all relate to humanity's desire to eat meat. We also know that raising animals for food is a leading contributor to climate change. According to the United Nations, 14.5%, 14.5% of all of the greenhouse gas emissions that humanity is causing are coming from the animal agriculture sector. That's more emissions than the entire transportation sector combined, more than all the boats, trains, planes, cars, all put together. Raising animals for food, according to the United Nations, creates more greenhouse gas emissions than all of that. So then the question becomes, what can we do? Because it's great to know these facts. It's great to know that raising all these animals for food is a leading cause of so many problems that the United Nations has pointed out. But it doesn't necessarily change anybody's behavior. Knowing facts is generally not sufficient to change people's behavior. Rather, we need to create an environment where doing the right thing, raising fewer animals for food, is the easier thing to do. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to be able to power our civilization with clean energy that comes from renewable resources rather than from fossil fuels. Well, think about it. When you go to flick a light switch on in the room, you are seeking the experience of an illuminated room. You just want light. You're not thinking, is this coming from wind, or is it coming from coal, or is it coming from geothermal, or is it coming from oil? We're just thinking, we want an illuminated room. Well, similarly, when we eat meat, most of the time, people are not thinking, I'm so glad that an animal was slaughtered for this. Quite the opposite, actually. Most of the time, if you do think about an animal at all, you probably would say, I would prefer an animal not have been slaughtered for this. Well, we can provide that experience in the same way that solar and wind can produce light in the rooms for us, so we have illuminated rooms without fossil fuels. We can produce meat without animals. And there's lots of ways to do it. But here at the Better Meat Co., what we are doing at this food technology startup based in Sacramento, California, is creating a fermentation process in which we can feed potatoes to tiny microscopic fungi and have them convert those potatoes into something that really looks like animal meat. And so, for example, if you think about how a cow eats grass and converts that grass into a steak, we are taking little tiny microbes and feeding them potatoes, and they are creating a food that looks like animal's meat. And we can prepare it in ways with minimal processing where it can look like a steak, a chicken breast, a hamburger, a fish stick, a crab cake, and more. And so the point is that while that cow takes more than a year of feeding her before she is slaughtered and turned into steaks, we can do this process in less than one single day. Less than a single day, we can go from potato to a steak without genetic modification, with an all-natural fermentation process with extremely minimal processing. That is the power of food science to actually create sustainable alternatives to the current methods of factory farming animals that are creating so many of the ills that we are facing today. I truly believe that in the future, our descendants are going to be so glad that they no longer are dependent on animal slaughter in order to produce the meat that they want to eat. In the same way that we today are so glad that we are no longer reliant on whale oil to light our homes, but we have other methods of lighting our homes. In the same way that we are so glad that we are no longer reliant on the exploitation of horses to transport us and our goods all around the world, we have better ways of transporting ourselves. I believe that in the future, we are going to be so glad that we have freed humanity from the need to raise and slaughter billions of animals, often in conditions that most people don't want to even hear about, let alone do they want to witness them, and create a sustainable food future in which we can produce huge amounts of a meat experience for people with a tiny little sliver of the resources that are needed to produce meat today. In other words, we'll be able to free up more farmland. We'll be able to use less of the oceans. We will be able to cause less animal cruelty, all so that we can continue to enjoy the diet that we enjoy having without so many of the downsides associated with it. Our future is in our hands. The United Nations has made it clear time and time again, yes, we should be enjoying a more plant-based diet. That's good for us, for our health. It's good for the planet. It's good for animal welfare. At the same time, the meat that we do produce, the meat that we do eat, does not need to come from a system of factory farming in which we are raising entire animals in squalid conditions only to slaughter and disassemble them. We can create that same experience. Just like wind and solar can create energy, we can create the meat experience without animals. That's what we are trying to do here at the Better Meat Co. That's what I write about in my book, Clean Meat, and that's what I hope you will join us in creating this clean protein revolution that will lead to a better, more humane, more sustainable, and more just food system for humanity deep into the future. Thank you so much. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I welcome hearing from you on our website at bettermeat.co. Again, that's bettermeat.co. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you, Paul. Great to hear that story as well, and the real passion and clarity he feels about it. And I know in this industry it's a very complex space that we sit in. There's lots of different expertise and opinions. So let's come together and work out how we can all move forward better. So I think we've actually managed to get Dirk with us and on camera this time, which is exciting. Hi, Dirk. There's the smile I was talking about. Oh, I don't actually hear you. I think you might be on mute.
Now we get this final little technical problem solved. Okay.
Amazing. There we go. So maybe you could introduce yourself firstly, Dirk.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Well, my background is landscape ecology, and therefore I really worked a long time in the field of biodiversity ecology research at the European level, European projects on natural cultural landscapes. And that brought me 10 years ago to the field of food and agriculture. Agriculture, of course, always a part of it, but the whole food chain as such, up to the consumer, was a new dimension in this respect, that also innovation and business became much more a part of my research interest. And I'm running Susmetro, a company based in the Netherlands, and which we participate in different projects at the national and regional and European level. And as you mentioned, the FoodShift 2030 EU project is on innovation, and in this part, food innovation, I'm the innovation manager together with my team, and being really in the fortunate position to just have 90 innovation cases in 9 European cities to examine and to support and work with. So that's in a nutshell what I'm doing and what my background is.
Amazing, and a real wealth of experience there. So when earlier I was quoting you or talking about some conversation we had about food citizenship. So how would you define citizenship? And a little bit further than that, what do you recommend to the audience here, how we could actually live this concept?
Yeah. I think it's a matter of really a more conscious way of seeing and identifying oneself as an active partner in the food chain, and not just at the receiving end as the consumer, which does have quite some powerful, let's say, roles and potentials as well, but in a way beyond this. Of course, the choice you make, for example, we just heard about non-animal based food, different sorts of proteins. This already is visible in the shops, in the supermarkets, that the shelf place for these products is expanding, I think, almost by the week or the month, you can see. So this is clearly, I mean, an important role where just by simply educating yourself, being aware of what food does and what happens in the environment, you already can change the system to a certain degree. But food citizenship goes further than this. Food citizenship also entails a certain type of involvement which allows that you at different levels, let's say, of the city government can participate in decision making. This means that you are in favor of, let's say, that more plant-based food is being consumed in cafeterias, in public places, and that this is also something which is really announced and made visible, and which is not just left kind of in the dark or into the media, but where the public bodies really take responsibility in promoting this and also informing about the impacts. This goes along with education at the school and even kindergarten level, but up to citizen science, which is something which already exists quite a long time, but which is something which we see more and more in the food system becoming an important trigger for change. That own experiences in the food chain by producing something in your backyard, by cooperating with partners and friends and maybe business partners in around the city and producing alternative food is a matter of just informing, communicating, sharing with others, and making it a part of the citizen science input back to society. So there are actually a wealth of dimensions to this. And maybe another important element is that the cities and city regions in the last years really have started much more to just open up to also some of the, let's say, institutional dimensions of that citizens enter the food system, which means, for example, that food policy councils have been created, where citizen delegates, citizen representatives, but also people from restaurants and from food business sit together and just can approach city government in a totally new way. So this has been done in a couple of cities. It actually came from the US. We just heard before that in the US, certain things are just kind of back, and in Europe, things are advanced. This is not always the case. I think in this case of the food policy councils, we've learned a lot from the US and from Canada. And this is sometimes, these things are quite the other way around, surprisingly. But fortunately, the learning process goes quite well in both directions.
No, that's great to hear. And do you see, obviously we're here in the EIT fan environment. We have 60 startups in this cohort this year, 70 next year. Do you see this food shift and citizenship approach kind of almost being, if they're successful, being a funnel to creating new startups as well? Is that often the journey they take? Yeah, definitely. I think we also realized that just in the family of food innovators, food system innovators, which we host, if you want so, in the project, that there is quite some interest and some really quite strong positive reactions that the support is given, and that there are, people were, and we saw it, we heard it. This is not just an 8-hour business job, 8 hour a day, 9 to 5, as you say. This is kind of takes a major part of, let's say, innovator and startups' life to just get these ideas going and to just turn them into a viable business model. So there is virtually no possibility to just go outside the demand which is already there to make this work, and get into touch with all kinds of people, get into courses, cross-link, get maybe other references on board, and do educational sessions. So the way we've tailored this now for our innovators is really to allow this happening directly in the field of their most, let's say, pressing interest, so that we really target at what do these people need. And I think that's what IET is doing. I really like to hear that they link up to these hubs in different and distant locations. And still, you might think, well, what, does someone from South America have, from a Swiss hub, or vice versa, from Portugal, from a Bilbao hub, etc., etc. So, but fact is, due to our communication technologies and the online exchange, if it doesn't happen as bad as just an hour ago, we can exchange quite well. And the benefits are quite obvious. There is lots of information and lessons learned to share between experts, and to eventually dive into some related issues, for example, from circular economy. The circular economy domain is something so big and comprehensive. If you want to use energy sources around you, if you want to change your packaging, if you want to have sustainable transport, I mean, this can't be all pursued by the person just working on his or her product. But this can be maybe enabled and facilitated and linked to by just kind of these types of networks, like in the EU projects or at EIT. Exactly. And we're talking today, we've been talking about trying to make an impact, right? There's lots of interesting, exciting technologies, but what actual change are they making and how are they scaling? So do you have, in the work you're doing, do you see examples where citizenship and that approach has led to impact?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the examples which we know about is happening very often in the very heart of the centers, where city centers, I mean, where citizen groups get together and basically develop a community garden system, CSAs, where community-supported agriculture does, where you can join and where you find a network, and which is often highly organized and allows, in contrary to some of the other models, physical engagement with the earth and with some of these harder work parts, which is people also enjoy very much, plus having products to take home or to share with neighbors again. And we find this, of course, in the major cities. This is kind of obviously the case and becomes quite popular. We also have seen this in more, let's say, countryside or suburbia areas where there are extreme long waiting lists where the existing, let's say, communities can't even accommodate for. So there's hope that others pick this up as well. So this can be, this can easily double or triple what's going on now within a couple of months if people say, okay, I'm going to just kind of lead and establish, a CSA myself. And we saw this in the Belgium context. It just worked like this, that it would just customers followed and expanded dramatically within short times. And yeah, in terms of using tech, it is, of course, something. We do live in a tech affinity world where many of the consumers are not just, just purely living from traditional ways, but they are very well aware of certain social media possibilities to engage in or to learn from. So we have, for example, the Plant Jammer technology, which allows citizens to just kind of know what to do with their leftover food, which they have at home, and immediately get a menu, which allows them to see the calories, the type of sustainable criteria which are linked to just using this type of food, and they can cook from the leftovers, sometimes really great dishes they probably wouldn't think about without such an app. So, this context, but also, let's say, the Domingo Club in Barcelona, and actually one of these examples we saw when we met in Barcelona during the Agricultural Food Summit event and the Agriculture World City Capital role of Barcelona a month ago, was just lots of examples from the Fab Lab, which is one of the leading organizations in Barcelona, having a huge variety of these experts and startups in their place and hosting them. And one of them, the Domingo Club, produces really very tasty or offers technology, open source technology. This means anyone interested in this can get it and, in this case, build his own or her own incubator for fermenting food to make nice tempeh food, which is a soya-based food substitute for meat, obviously, and have not only the product as such, but even the producing unit, the incubator, at home and build it yourself. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we saw lots of 3D printing, let's say, possibilities for engaging people. And young people, of course, are keen on something like this. They want to learn, they want to exchange, and want to just not necessarily go back to just kind of the classical kitchen situation, but learn about all dimensions of what the food system has to offer. So, I mean, in this way, there is lots of stuff going on.
Oh, for sure. And it's exciting to see so many talented people finishing their education and want to come into the food industry now, great designers and so on. Sounds like you've got a few potential fan candidates there for the next cohort.
That's possible, yes.
Any final message here for the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a very interesting and very rich presentation of cases and startups we saw. I think one of my messages is to those who just kind of showed their, let's say, inventions or business models. Take a look left and right of your own activities. For example, the spatial dimension around cities, those areas in the field like biodiversity, nature conservation areas, which are sometimes really bordering next to intensively used agriculture. And this is something where also data exists. So there is lots of data about nature and environment. And to link up, let's say we do have the production paradigm, we have the life science paradigm, and we have the eco-social paradigm. And I think it should be really something in the heart of everyone engaged in this to move slowly but surely towards the social ecological paradigm. This really means that you engage and exchange with the space, with the area around you. This means the existing ecosystems and build in your innovation ecosystem into this type of framework. And there are possibilities to do so and to get expertise on these other matters, how eventually win-win situations can also be arranged with the nature and environment around the cities, because there are places of recreation and of nature experiences as well. So let's bring all these loose ends together and don't be afraid to just explore more of these.
Great message. Really appreciate it. And great to see you again, Dirk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Wonderful. Cool. And yeah, technology, you can preserve of it, and in the end, it can work. So that's good to see. Well, it's been a pleasure to hear from all the different expert speakers today. Some really good conversations, some clear messages, and especially thank you to the 6 disruptive startups, the founders that came to join us as well. Really, really cool to see some nice conversations, right, Laurie?
Definitely. It's been a long month. We've had a lot of ups and downs, I guess, throughout this month. But in overall, I myself personally learned a lot. It's been fascinating. So hopefully everyone, some of you have come through the whole journey of the four demo days that we've had, and you'll be able to take some value from that. I really appreciate everyone's hard work. Particularly shout out to Somersault, who've actually been behind the scenes. You may have not seen them, but they've been helping us. They've been doing the videos. They've been helping with the technical side of it. So really appreciate their work, and also the team behind Making Innovations too. So we have a team here helping with the communications and helping us get things right. So that's really been appreciated too. And hopefully everyone has a great evening, and you can continue networking here on this platform.
Exactly. It remains open. So you've heard some amazing speakers, especially the startups too. So they want to speak to you. They're around now or later. You can follow up with them. They're wanting to scale, and they have the potential to. So please do. And those of you who are new to finding out about EIT Food Accelerator Network, we encourage you to go to the LinkedIn page where all the information is. We'll share that in a moment in the chat. I think we have one more poll that you might want to answer just as you're going to start networking. So we'll share that. Really, we want to think from, Dirk talked a lot about citizenship. So we want to think about what action will you take to support this tech transformation of the agri-food system for it to be healthier for the planet and people. There's some really, all of us have a role to play. So we want you to really think about, having heard all of this, what can we each do as food citizens? So cool to hear your responses there. And please go and enjoy the networking.
Bye now. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.